Hello everybody! Today we're doing part 2 of the Urusov Gambit series, and if you want to watch part 1, I highly recommend you go watch that first. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. Okay, so right here we just start off with e4, e5, and then d4, which is the center game. This is not anything standard like knight f3 or bishop c4 or even the King's Gambit. No, instead we're just going to play this move d4, and we're just not even going to get the queen in the game. If he takes, we're going to play a bishop to c4, and not any of these other moves like, oh, instead we're just going to go knight f3, try to put back, or taking back with the queen. That's not what we want, because that is just going to give initiative to the opponent. And so here, we're not even going to worry about that. We're just going to develop. And so, yes, this is not technically an Urusov, but we do get to play the Urusov if he plays knight to f6. And so here, we'll play knight to f3, and after he takes, we take back, he'll go back here, and then bishop to e7, we play bishop g5, he castles, we castle, d6, queen h4, and here there are a couple common moves here. h6 is the second most common move, and here all of a sudden we get to just take on h6, everybody takes back, we take, and the most common move here in 53% of games is knight to h7. We are immediately plus 11. Pause the video if you want to think about why. Okay, I've given you a chance to do that. The answer is rook to d5. Why rook to d5? Well, after anything he does, like d6 is the most common move here, then all of a sudden we can just play rook to h5. We are doubling up long here. If he moves this knight, obviously, it's going to be mate in 1. And if he doesn't do anything about this knight, then it is just going to be an easy checkmate. And so the only way to really stop that mate is bishop to f5. So here we are going to take back. And yet again, the most common move here is another really horrible blunder. And you'll notice we actually have a 100% win rate here out of the 12 games that have been played. Knight to f6 is the most common one, which is blunders rook to g5 checkmate. Now, we're not going to spend too much time dwelling on the sublines, so we're just going to go back to here. And you'll see in this position that here, instead of playing knight to c6, he may play c6. And so here, we're going to play queen to h4. And we're already down to 286 games in the database, but that doesn't matter, does it? Because now, most common move is d5. 84% of games will have that, but this actually threatens nothing because this pawn is completely pinned here. And so here, we are going to play bishop d3 anyways, but not because this is attacked. This attacked nothing, mind you. Attacked nothing. And so the most common move here is now h6. And you'll notice that our win rate is actually pretty low here. Now, why would that be? Why would that be? Well, this is just not too familiar of a position for people who've studied Urusov and black's to stop a pawn. But if you have studied this, you know rook e1, he'll take, and then you take back with the knight. And this knight just can't move away, otherwise you get mate right here. And so g6 is what everybody plays here. And now you can just play queen to h6, moving in. Most common move, 62% of the time, is bishop d6. Most people do not find the follow-up, but you're completely winning here. You play g3 just to stop any threats along here. Queen c7 is the most popular move here. I mean, there's only 8 games in the database, so I'm not sure that matters. I mean, actually, let's turn off all the filters here. Let's add in blitz and bullet again. And now you'll see there are still only 22 games, right? But queen c7, and now you get to play this beautiful, beautiful move. Knight ce4. This is sacrificing the knight two different ways. If he takes the pawn, we're going to sacrifice the rook. And yes, he cannot take here, otherwise this is mate in 1, of course. And so this knight is really just for show. It's just defending here. This knight is doing nothing right now. It's overworked. And so queen d8 is the move that I imagine somebody would do. That is the move that my friend suggested when we went over the position together. And so I'm just saying that because there's nothing in the database. There's nothing. We have no data on what anybody would play here, but this is just a trap that I think is rather interesting. And so he has to play bishop to f4 to delay it. You take, and it doesn't matter what you play, is you're going to get mate in 1. And you've had a nice little sacrifice there to do it. Anyways, what if instead of bishop to e7, he plays pawn to c6 right here? And well, here you're just going to play pawn bishop g5, and if he plays bishop e7, it transposes into the line that we saw earlier. And so therefore, I'm going to assume they play d5 here. And I've actually gotten this against the engine before. And this is completely equal right now. Completely equal. And no, we can't take this, otherwise it's mate in 1, obviously, but still. And so bishop e7 is what everybody plays here, 83% of people. Right? And so now you just play rook he1, and yet again, he cannot take this because this bishop is now pinned. And you will get about 1% of your games won like that if you do play this, but it is, I mean, if we filter for, let's see, how do we filter here? We filter for people between 1200 and 1600 only, and see what the most common move here is. Then d takes c4 is still very common. Bishop e3, e happens here. People still castle, but it doesn't change that much, I guess, but still. Regardless, most common move is to castle. And now you're going to play bishop d3. This is very reminiscent of what we had earlier, isn't it? But now bishop to e6, queen to h4, and knight b to d7 is what the most popular move here is. And here, you're going to play bishop takes f7 check. Take a look at that. Obviously, he cannot take here because you just get this fork here, and that's nice. And so he's just going to play king to h8 if he is relatively intelligent, right? And he wants to say, hey, okay, I'm not going to let you have that fork. But here you sacrifice the rook. And the reason you sack it is because then you have bishop g6, and then you can take here, and he can't take back with anything except the knight, otherwise it's mate, obviously. And then you just get every single piece in. He has to play knight to h5 here, totally inhuman move, just to try to win that, just so he can try to sacrifice here. And then yet again, knight ce4. You see this idea of bringing the knight in to aid this knight on g5. You always see this in this. And he can't take here either because now you just take here and it's pinned. And so here he just takes a knight. Here he sacks the queen, and he has to very quickly take the pressure off his king if he doesn't want to get mated. But regardless, you're still going to be up a queen for a rook, and that's going to be very advantageous for you. Now, instead of the line that we showed earlier, he plays h6 here. We're going to take, and most commonly he will take back, and we're +6. Why are we +6? We're going to take here, He has to play rook to e8 if he wants to try to avoid being mated. That is the most popular move anyways. And so here, rook to e5, threatening to slide over with checkmate. And so the most popular move is knight to e4. And you already see we have mate in 23 on there, but how is it mate in 23? Well, we take, and now it says mate in 11, because the computer is just drunk. Mate in 9, I guess. Mate in 8, because we take back. And we're hitting the queen here. We're also threatening to do this little maneuver right here. And so he plays bishop to d6, making space for if this has happened. If this would happen, then there's this. I mean, obviously we don't want that to happen. So instead, we're going to play bishop to h7. He'll have to slide over, and then what you can do is you can sacrifice the rook, and after he takes back, which I assume basically everybody would, you get to just play bishop to d3, king's forced to g8, and then you can just come in with a very nice checkmate with the rook. Now, those are all the c6 lines we're really going to cover here. The Urusov is such a complicated opening, but still. But there are some lines where he could play bishop to b4 check. Like, for example, here, instead of accepting the Gambit. Right? And so you're going to play c3. He'll take. And you have to take back. And the most common move, overwhelmingly so, is bishop to c5. Now, this is not a blunder by any means, but it is still rather dangerous for the opponent, because here, the most common move is knight to g4, and now we're winning, because we have this great sacrifice here, and we're not even going to go for this fork on the bishop. It's not as accurate. Here, we have this knight discovered attack, and whatever he does, we just get this, and you'll notice our win rate is really high here, because, here, for example, and we just get to push e6. We get to move into the position, and we're threatening all kinds of things here. And even if this is theoretically equal, you're just going to be doing very, very well. Right? So what if, instead of after here, bishop d5, he plays queen to e7, trying to pin you and say, okay, I'm not going to move my knight, I'm not going to do any of that, I'm just going to get more things in the attack. Now, if you look in the database, that is a relatively common move, 23% of players. And these aren't just nobody's playing it too. The average rating is 1811, right? And so queen e7, you castle. Obviously, he cannot take this pawn, otherwise he loses the queen. I mean, that's defended. So he has to save the knight somehow else. Knight to g4 is the main move here. 63% of players will play that. And now you just have bishop g5, you're attacking the queen. I would assume people would play f6 here, and that is the case for most, 66% of people. And now you can just play bishop to h4. You're not even taking here. Like, I think you can take this, but it's not as good. And basically everybody here goes g5. Now, this is obviously not the most common line, and so we're already down to 9 games in the database, but still. Here, we take on f6. It doesn't matter what he takes. We just get to take here. We're threatening like bishop f7 ideas later. We have rook e1 coming. It's very difficult to stop that. I mean, d5, for example, then rook to e1, and we're just going to win the queen. We're going to have a lot of pressure here. It's going to be great for us, and you should be easily winning that game. But, as always, that is not the only thing he can play. What if here he plays bishop to a5 instead? What then? Well, you play e5, and queen to e7 is the most common move, overwhelmingly so. Why? Well, because if knight to g4 or something, then you have just queen to d5, and you're threatening this pawn, you're threatening this bishop, and this pawn is actually a lot more valuable than the bishop because you're threatening mate with it as well. And therefore, people seek to avoid that. I mean, moving then, the best move here, if we turn on the arrow, is actually just to play d5 and try to counterattack, and we fork here, and we just get this, right? But instead of that, queen e7, I mean, let's explain why this is actually so winning. Here, bishop to a3, and yes, you can castle. That is a really good move, but still, bishop a3, and now d6 is what 80% of people will play, because you're just hacking the queen. They want to put something in the way of it. Now you castle. Now knight to e4 is the most common move here. You check him. It doesn't matter what he blocks with. Like he could play knight c6, trying to defend here. He could block here. He could block with the bishop. Doesn't matter. But if knight c6, then you're just going to take on d6, and he's going to play knight takes most of the time, and you're just going to win the queen. But if he plays knight a2 d7, trying to avoid that, then you just take here. He takes the pawn for the reasons that we mentioned earlier. He cannot take with the knight because that's actually pinned to the pin of the queen. It's rather redundant, but still. And so now you really pin it to the queen. He castles, and you get to take on a5. And you should be very much winning here because you're up a piece and you have a lot of pressure. And so here, there is another possibility. After this, knight to e4. Now you are going to play queen to d5 here. He'll castle most of the time, just trying to prevent the mate threat. He'll take on e4, if d5, trying to win back the queen through a fork trick. You do not en passant here. En passanting is actually enough to make this equal, because now it is rook to e8 and you're done. Right, and so you're just going to play bishop takes, and you just have this umbrella pawn saving you from the rook, and he cannot really do anything about that. So the main move here is actually to sacrifice here. You take, he takes, you castle, and you're a piece up, you're safe, and there's nothing that is going to really happen for you. And you're going to win. But like always, that is not the only thing that can happen. What if instead of playing knight f6 at all, he plays bishop to b4 check? Like, this happens in a couple games. If you look at here, it's only 30% of games, but still. Now, c3 takes, and bishop a5 is bad because of this little fork of these two pieces, as we mentioned earlier. And queen e7, you win the bishop, whatever. Right? But instead of that, here he plays bishop to c5, which is the othermost common blunder. You can sacrifice. He takes, queen to h5, g6. You take here, and he has no castling rights. His king side is overwhelmingly exposed. You're going to get this bishop in here sometime, maybe win this rook. It's going to be a nightmare for black to defend. But once again, there is another way he could check. Here, he takes, you take, and if we go through the database here, you will see that this is a very uncommon move, but could still happen. This is just something very simple that you have to know. c3, and whatever he does, you're just going to win one of these pieces. It's going to be very simple. And so here, there's e4, e5, boom, takes, bishop c4, and now bishop to b4 check. as we mentioned earlier. Here takes, bishop c5. Yes, this is the line I showed you earlier. Yes, but you can also play king to f8. Take here, and this is just going to be a rather nice little thing you can do. And it's just going to go rather well for you. You have 80% win rate here, it's going to be fine. But anyway, this has been BlunderedGames. Signing off.